here's Brody Brazil.
We are going to get into the deeper details of the Chicago Bears stadium situation and ambitions here in the course of this video, but I think the best way to sum it up is the team kind of instantly pivoted, and that's no surprise. We could see the developments coming. We knew they already owned this land in Arlington Heights, but they wanted to shoot their shot for downtown Chicago, to rebuild something right around the site of Soldier Field, to be on the shores of Lake Michigan, to kind of keep that downtown Chicago status, but they read the writing on the wall. They needed help from public subsidies to the tune of like $1 or $2 billion from Chicago or from the state of Illinois. They could easily see they weren't going to get it. And so they said, wait, we own 300 plus acres of land out in the suburbs that we bought a couple years ago. You know what? We're now going to put the ball back out on that field and maybe consider doing this project. So now that I've summed it up, this is what the Bears are kind of walking away from. And again, there's two parts of this. Like, the imagery is beautiful. Like, that is that is unmatched right there. Domed football stadium. They can do events year-round in Chicago. They don't have an indoor, like, big stadium like this, right on Lake Michigan, right next to downtown, a place that everybody's already familiar with. But the other big problem is that number on top. And I put a question mark next to $1 billion. It could have been between $1 and $2 billion. It was an unrealistic ask by the Bears. Essentially, like I said before, they were shooting their shot for this, and eventually they could kind of see that, well, this wasn't going to happen, and this is one of the things that tipped them off. This was from March, I believe, February or March of this calendar year. I get this from IllinoisPolicy.org. House Bill 2969 was introduced in Illinois. It would require teams to win at least 50% of their games in at least 3 out of 5 seasons if they want taxpayer funds for a new stadium or to renovate an existing one. And you know why lawmakers even put this forward? It didn't get anywhere, by the way. It kind of went to the committee, and then it kind of got passed around, then back to the committee. Because lawmakers were like, we don't even want this conversation. We're going to be proactive against teams like the Bears and teams like the Chicago White Sox, who might be asking us for public subsidies. And they called this act, like the more specific name was the Balanced Earnings and Records Standings Act. Balanced Earnings and Record Standings. That's a weird combination of words. They called it the Bears Act because they were basically saying, don't even come to us. Your team's not even winning. And we're not going to help out teams that aren't functionally sound, like doing what they're supposed to be doing on the field, winning football games. And so we're going to at least propose this law, which again, didn't pass. It's not a law. But this was assigned to the House Executive Committee, did not pass the House or Senate for votes. But so it just fizzled away. But this is that writing on the wall I told you about, that the Bears were not going to get that help, $1 to $2 billion. And so that's why they kind of backed out of their grand ambitions and pivoted back to the suburbs. The last 5 seasons, by the way, if you're talking about the White Sox and the Bears, I mean, the White Sox had a weird 2020. They made the playoffs, lost to the A's. 21, they also won 93 games, lost in the ALDS. 2022, a 500 team. Great. You can apply for that public subsidy. 2023, 61 wins. And last year, they had the worst record in modern Major League Baseball history, 41 and 121. And so lawmakers are like, don't even ask. And the Bears have been worse in terms of winning and losing seasons. Their last 5 seasons, 8-8 in 2020. They went to a playoff game, lost in the wild card. 21, 22, 23, and 24, 6-3, 7, and 5 total wins in the respective seasons. So again, that's why the Bears probably looked at this and said, yeah, we're not going to get help. We need to go act on this sooner than later, and we're going to try our hand out in Arlington Heights. Meanwhile, I mentioned the White Sox. I should touch on this real quick, too. They play on the south side of Chicago. They're looking to move a little bit closer to the downtown core here on the South Loop. This is the 78, right? It would be the 78th neighborhood in Chicago. Great plot of land. Are you kidding me? Could you imagine the White Sox playing in a stadium right there? Problem is, again, grand ambitions. Like, Chicago's got these perfect pieces of land and perfect opportunities, but the teams don't, like, they don't realize that if you're going to ask for $1 billion plus, you're probably not going to get this. It's okay to have these ideas, but to pitch this and to ask so much to come along with it, it's just a hard reality that it would ever happen that way. More from IllinoisPolicy.org. Governor J.B. Pritzker called public funding for a new stadium nearly impossible, referring to the Bears and the Chicago White Sox, as both have lobbied the state for financial assistance. This is coverage from a couple months ago. Chicago taxpayers are still on the hook. $589 million from Soldier Field's redevelopment back in 2002, right? More than 20 years ago, and $50 million still for building Guaranteed Rate Field that was constructed in the early 1990s. The Bears made a statement to NBC television in Chicago. The Bears said they have, quote, made significant progress with the leaders in Arlington Heights, right? This is the suburb outside of Chicago to the northwest, about 40 plus miles away from downtown. Leaders in Arlington Heights, and look forward to continuing to work with state and local leaders on making a transformative economic development project for the region a reality. I mean, they're still kind of hinting at the fact that they are still trying to work with the state and local leaders to get some type of benefit out of building a new project. As for leaving Chicago, the mayor, Brandon Johnson, kind of had this reaction to understanding the Bears have pivoted. They're out. They're focusing elsewhere. Quote, I've done everything that I could possibly do. I've done my part. You know, at this point, if the state of Illinois wants to keep the Bears in the city of Chicago, the ball is on their side of the field. He's basically saying, done with that. Let them go to Arlington Heights. We're not going to make the fight. We're not going to make the push anymore. As for this Arlington Heights Stadium, I should be more clear on this. The team already owns the land. It used to be a horse racing track. 326 acres. They purchased it a couple years ago for about $200 million. It is about 40 miles north. Oh, I said east. You know what's 40 miles northeast of Soldier Field? Lake Michigan. Here, let me fix that. There we go. Northwest from Soldier Field. But it's one of those situations where it's about a 70-minute drive, even with moderate traffic. So, like, this is the Bears, realistically, like, in the Chicagoland area, but leaving the urban central part of Chicago. Like, this is a departure for the football team to go a significant distance away. Their project would include a stadium, but as you saw there with the renderings, also a mixed-use district. As I also explained earlier, the Bears don't have anything set up in the way of public funding or financing or subsidies here. Now, I'm not saying that that should be part of the deal or not. I'm just saying that it's kind of been hinted at that they'll want that, but they don't have that set up at the new site. They also are going to run into some inevitable concerns about site infrastructure and traffic and ingress and egress and staffing needs. And there was some coverage the other day simply on the lack of potential police presence, like that you would need a certain amount of officers to cover a Sunday football game out in the suburbs. And the Arlington Heights Police District just doesn't have enough bodies. So it's not every day that an NFL football team says, hey, suburbs, we're coming, we're building a stadium out there. Are you ready for us? Like, sometimes the answer instantly is going to be no. Maybe over time they'll figure this out. But I guess the point is all of it is quite primitive right now. It's just the idea that they're shifting their focus out to the suburbs. Here are my takeaways. Number one, new stadiums in urban locations, whether it's the White Sox, whether it's the Chicago Bears, these propositions, right, are getting impossibly expensive. And it's so hard for the teams to pump out these renderings, these beautiful pictures, and we say that would be perfect. Everybody wants to be on board. But then when we see the price tag, everybody's like, there's no way possible that's going to happen. Can we scale things down a little bit? Can we still make the stadiums happen, but work on everything else after the fact? Can we make it so that the public funding piece is non-existent or to such a minimal degree that we can actually make these things happen? Again, impossibly expensive is probably the best way to put it. The White Sox are probably looking at this as an indicator to them too. Now that the Bears were also in this situation and the Bears have pivoted to something else, what does this mean for the White Sox, right? And are they going to start talking about Nashville again like they did last baseball season? Are they going to start making these wild threats about if they don't get help on their new stadium site? Do they think this opens the door for them? Or do they read the room and say, well, this might shut the door on us too? Again, the Bears are still going to ask for subsidies. I don't want to make it look like they're done asking for help because they're going to land they already own. No, they're just going to make a different ask. out in the suburbs. And by the way, their lease at Soldier Field, it expires in 2023. So I do expect some urgency on this situation. Like by the end of the 20s, you have to have this stuff figured out, but there's obviously still a few more years for that to happen. So the Bears have pivoted. They're going a significant drive away, more than an hour's drive away from Soldier Field. They're going to focus on Arlington Heights. We'll see if they ultimately actually build that project, this project, which, yeah, there you go. Stadium district, mixed-use district. By the way, is that the least complimentary stadium rendering you've ever seen? That looks like a vanilla cake, right? But what is that stadium? It's so bad. I could have done better than that with AI. Come on. Anyway, let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Thumbs up also down there helps me, the video, and the channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you back here next time.